welcome everyone to the August 8th, 2023 Planning Board meeting in the town of Winchester. We do have a quorum this evening. We also are being, I better start the recording. Let me record.
Recording in progress.
We are being recorded both on Zoom and via WinCam. Thank you very much, WinCam. If you do not wish to appear on the recording, please turn off your video and your speaker. We are, in order to speak, you will not be able to speak without raising your hand and letting one of the co-hosts give you that permission. We're under Zoom bomb protocols here. But why don't we start with a roll call. So let's see who we've got here. Nick Rosettos.
Present.
Sally Dale.
Present.
I Ching Scott.
Present.
And I'm Dave Jarius, the chair. I am present. Our fifth member, Carrie Layton, will be a few minutes late. So we have a packed schedule this evening, so why don't I bring you all up to date. Let's see, I will share my screen. Okay, can you all see my screen? Okay, so this evening we have what I think most people are here for. We have a public hearing for the first of several public hearings for the Waterfield Civic Development downtown. We're also going to be looking we're going to be providing our opinion to the ZBA on the Lynch Elementary School special permit. We have a couple of short elements, which is to sign off on the Rocky Ledge Covenant and HOA. And there's a request for a waiver on stormwater for a project in church in the CBD. And then at 8:55, we're going to have some discussions about our consultants for and our contract for North Main Street and 3A zoning and public outreach. And then at 9:35, we will be scheduling our upcoming public discussions about the MBTA 3A zoning. So why don't we jump right into it? Let's go to our approval of minutes. And let me get to that right away. Hold on a second. I thought I had these all teed up. Okay, so let's go to the 7:23 minutes. Are there any comments on the minutes for July 25th of 2023?
Yes, I have some to add.
Okay, would you please go ahead?
In section 1 on the first page, updates under D. This is a question for Nick. That Nancy captured that you and Carrie were going to be developing a summary town meeting presentation. And what I thought you were doing was working on confirming map data.
Yeah, we did work on the map, and we came up with some addresses that we want to communicate.
Right.
I haven't shared that at this point yet.
The minutes don't say that; they say something different.
So why don't we just amend the minutes to say that you and Carrie would be submitting edits to the map.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, that's good. And that's on page 1. And then
I'm sorry, I did not scroll. I apologize.
one edit on page 2. Oh yes. It under number 4, 75 Bacon Street petition, when you get down to the bullets. And the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th bullet is Mr. Mancher confirmed that he has the existing conditions plot plan. I just wanted to add from the 2022 building permit application.
Yep.
Because it's a confusing series of points. And then on page 3 on the bottom, where it says planning board discussions, second bullet, Mr. Lemenager. He is on the screening committee, not the search committee. You see that?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, we've been using that interchangeably, but it
Oh,
is
well.
technically the screening committee,
It is screening. That's what they did.
yes.
That's all I have.
Okay, any other comments or corrections on this?
None, I mean,
Okay, so I would appreciate a motion to approve the minutes of July 25th, 2023.
with the amendments, so moved.
Yes, thank you. Is there a second?
Second,
Okay, roll call vote, please. Nick,
Aye.
I Ching,
Aye.
Sally,
aye.
and I say aye as well, and I don't think Carrie's with us yet, so yeah, I'll just Carrie, if you're here, well, I guess we'll have to pay attention if Carrie shows up.
Yeah, I
Okay,
didn't see it come in.
let's move on to the next one, which doesn't want to come up. Well, that's what, oh, it must already be up. There we go. Okay. Okay. Can you see, I just realized, can you see the one page number at the bottom of the screen?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay, sometimes I can't see the bottom of my screen. Okay, any comments or corrections on the minutes of July 31st, 2023?
I have only one on the first page under PB
Alright.
discussion.
Okay,
And that Ms. Spencer is on the screening committee, the same way we inserted it after Mr. Lemenager's name. We should insert it after Ms. Spencer's.
oh,
name.
just right here to
On, yeah,
identify
right
that
after,
she's-
yeah, right there, just on the screening committee.
Okay,
Yeah, that's it. That's all I have.
any other amendments?
No,
Okay, then I would welcome a motion to approve the minutes of Monday, July 31st as amended.
So I can move. So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
a second.
Thank you. Roll call, please. Sally,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Diab, oh, I'm sorry. I Ching,
Aye.
Diab says aye as well. Diab, somebody better wake Diab up. Okay, and Sally, could you please send those amendments to Nancy Polcari?
Yes.
I forgot to announce everyone who's joined us this evening. So as usual, we have Nancy Polcari with us, our recording secretary. We also have with us Matt Schuman, town engineer, Jay Tellerman, town council. There's a party of thousands out there, but I believe those are the members from the town. And okay, so let us move on now to our next item. So at this point, we have 2 minutes. We'll wait the requisite 2 minutes. We're going to start our public hearing at 7:30 p.m. on the Water Civil Code development. While we're waiting our requisite 2 minutes, let me make sure that everyone from the development team is available to speak. Oh, I did not make Sam co-host. Hi, Sam. You should be able to unmute, and you should be able to.
You should unmute Matt.
screen share.
Schuman.
And
Matt
Matt.
Schuman.
Yeah, where is he?
He's in the list. Go
Yeah, I
down.
know.
It looks like it's alphabetized by first name.
Oh, you can actually see mine. Okay, so I'm going to make. Oh, it just jumped.
Oh, maybe he jumped to the top.
I don't know. My choice is. I don't know.
There she comes.
Sam, can you let me know if there's someone on your team who is not been made co-host?
Yes, Taylor Bearden will be kicking it off for our team, and Joe Haskett will be running the slides.
Okay, so
Up.
yeah, I'm trying to find. I missed Matt. Yeah,
Here.
yeah, okay, Matt is in there, and Joe Haskett These co-hosts. Yeah, we're doing this the old-fashioned way. Haley Bayer, she's on your team, right?
Do we want Michael from VHB?
Alan Carey's here.
Michael from VHB and Michael Laham from Horsley Witten Group will also be speaking.
It's great.
Yeah, it's a lot of work here.
You got
I
to-
should have put in extra time to it. Sorry, it keeps jumping when people come into the meeting. Okay. Okay, so who is not? Okay, Carrie Layton, I have to make you co-host, right? Okay, so Carrie, have we run out of co-hosts? No. Okay, so who's on here who I've missed, Sam?
Well, Jay Tallerman,
Yeah, he's here.
yeah, but you can ask him to unmute if you, or maybe not.
No, I'm just looking at everyone who's co-host and want to make sure that, Sam, everyone on your team is co-host. I presume you can see the list of participants.
Yeah, I told you all the list of people presenting, but we also have a few other people attending. Dave Tregorth,
Yeah,
Dan
he's-
Hubbard.
Yep.
Haley Bayer.
Yep, I've got her. Okay, well, if I miss someone, oh, is Dan Hubbard? He's not presenting though, is he?
No, but he's
Well,
on the
I'll
team.
make him co-host just in case he needs to say something. We're doing it this way because if we let everyone unmute, we will have some unpleasant vocal participation, or I should say audio participation. Okay, so welcome everyone to, we need to take a vote from the planning board to open up. This is the first meeting, first public hearing on the Waterfield Civico development. So why don't we open up the meeting, open up the hearing? Can I get a motion to open the hearing, please?
With much enthusiasm, I move that we open the first public hearing for the Waterfield Civico development.
Is there a second, please?
I second.
Okay, so roll call vote. Carrie?
Aye.
Sally?
Aye.
I Ching?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I say aye as well. So the way we're going to run this public hearing is this is going to take a number of hearings to get through. It's a big project. We're going to have consultants. So the way we've kind of laid it out, we've got 50 minutes this evening, and we're going to give a lot of time to the petitioners to do a presentation. Then we're going to talk about what the peer review consultants will be. And I don't know if there's going to be time for public comment this meeting, but we will be having several meetings following this on particular subjects. In each of those meetings, there will be specific and plentiful time that is set aside for public hearing. And at the end of the process, after all the consultants have spoken and the board has had, prior to the board going into their discussion, we will also have it open for public hearing. So we want to try to get this moving. The petitioner, you guys are looking, because of the funding cycles required for affordable projects, they're trying to get some motion on this. So I hope we can move quickly, or I should say, move efficiently. We don't want to be quick, we want to be efficient. So we'll talk about scheduling of all the other hearings and such when at the end of this, or the continued hearings at the end of this, our meeting tonight. But why don't we just, with no further ado, I'm going to turn this over to our proponent, and it looks like you guys have already taken over. So it's all yours now. I am
Oh, I
assuming,
don't-
hi, I'm assuming that the town people don't need any.
I think Taylor
input.
needs to be
Taylor needs to be unmuted.
made co-host or unmuted. Yeah.
Okay, well, that would help, wouldn't it? Okay, Taylor, try.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Mr. Chair and members of the board, my name is Taylor Bearden. I'm a partner at Civico Development, and here with our joint venture partner, Causeway Development, we are presenting to you our application for the redevelopment of what's known as the Waterfield lot at 25, 27, and 0 Waterfield Road, where we're proposing a 60-unit mixed income development project on the site of the current parking lot. Next slide, please, Joe. So what I'll do here is provide a very brief introduction and project overview, as well as a description of the permitting path. And then I'll hand it to our project team to review architecture, civil engineering, landscape, and traffic. Next slide, Joe. So I'm joined tonight by my colleague, Andrew Consigli, and Dave Tregorth and Dan Hubbard from Causeway Development. Civico and Causeway have a successful track record of joint venture projects. We recently completed a similar scale project in Reading's town center, just steps from the MBTA station. For the purposes of the record, I'll mention that previous public presentations relative to this project, Causeway was referred to as Tregorth Companies, but our project team has not changed. They just had a name change mid-project. Next slide. So this evening and in upcoming hearings, you'll hear from members of our design team. Union, our architect, is represented tonight by Joe Haskett. Michael Laham from Horsley Witten is our civil engineer, and Michael Santos from VHB will conclude the presentation this evening. Next slide. So those team members have been part of this project from the very beginning. I'll give a brief overview here about our involvement, which began in summer of 2020, when the town of Winchester issued a request for proposals for the Waterfield lot. And Civico and Causeway submitted a response to the RFP and were selected by fall of 2020 from a pool of 5 qualified respondents. By the end of that year, we and the town had signed a memorandum of understanding and proceeded to negotiate a land development agreement, which was subsequently signed and approved at Springtown meeting in May of 2021. Between summer 21 and summer 2022, the land development agreement was renegotiated relative to, in particular, the provision of publicly available parking on site, as well as a number of other items. And an amended LDA was signed and approved at town meeting June of 2022, which was last summer. So between June and now, our team has been working on getting to this point with this board. And I should just mention before we proceed that although our involvement with this project began in July of 2020, it's the culmination of incredible work by town staff and leadership and members of the public that really facilitated the prior planning efforts that led to the opportunity for us to present this project to you tonight. Next slide, Joe. So the LDA, as it was approved at town meeting in June of 2022, provided a couple of high-level points here that have provided the guardrails for the project that we're proposing here. At the top level, it's 60 residential units, of which 40% are affordable, 71 publicly available parking spaces, 48 private spaces, which represents a 0.8-to-1 parking ratio, and then the demolition of the current Chamber of Commerce building that's located on the back of the site. The LDA required that we receive select board approval of the schematic level design prior to the planning board submission. And the image on the right represents the schematic level design as was approved in March by the select board, and it has served as the basis for the design that has been proposed in the package to the planning board. Next slide, please. So the zoning permits requested in the permitting path began with a memo from former town planner Brian Zakelli in January, which outlined that the special permit for planned unit development within the central business district was the most appropriate permitting path for the project as proposed. And what we have contemplated here is a waiver, a minor waiver for height differential, which is explicitly allowed where diverse housing opportunities are provided in proposals. So there are no variances requested in the package that we've submitted. And additionally, we're looking at site plan and design review. Next slide, please. So the balance of this presentation is Joe Haskett and members of our design team. So Joe, please take it from here.
Thank you, Taylor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board for taking time this evening to allow us to run through the project. My name is Joe Haskett. I'm a principal at Union Studio Architects. And just for those who may not be aware, this is an aerial shot of where the particular project is that we're proposing this evening, nestled behind businesses that front Church Street, and our particular project fronts on Waterfield with the elevated MBTA commuter rail to the right on the slide. Just to give a quick summation of the units that we have within the project, I'm not going to speak too much to the percentage of AMI. If there's any questions on that, we can relay that to ownership. But we do have a diverse unit type. 12 studios, 17 one bedroom, 25 two bedroom, 6 3-bedroom for a total of 60 units for this project. Also a snapshot of parking. This is a 2-level parking garage. One is underground, one is at grade. The basement level has 48 parking spaces for residents only. The ground level, which is publicly available, has 71 units. And those get divided into 52 that are housed within the garage and 19 are outdoor for a total of 119 spaces. We also allow 81 bike parking spaces within this project as well. Just to kind of peel back a little bit, give you some visuals of what we're proposing this evening. This is a view from the town common. This is the 3-story portion of the building that fronts on Waterfield Street. The first floor is the entrance to the building that would house a lobby, a mailroom, and the 2 floors above that are residential. Moving more towards the MBTA elevated commuter rail from Laraway Road, you can see the entrance there on the first floor and start to see how the project kind of cascades back towards the parking garage. You can see the 3-story housing on top of the 1-story garage. We also are proposing a tower which acts as kind of above the height, which acts as a visual terminus to people pulling into the parking lot. It's also intended to act as a cap to the housing portion. And it's also just intended to break up the scale and also act as something that the passersby on the elevated commuter rail can see, which would, for all intents and purposes, act as a 2-story structure from that standpoint. And speaking of the elevated commuter rail, this is a view from that. We think this is an important viewpoint, as there will be quite a few people on the commuter rail, passing this particular project. Just a couple of areas that we can tab through. Ownership is proposing to keep the mechanicals to as much of a minimum as we can to afford some space for some photovoltaic panels on the roof. Excuse me, you can see this from the rear of the project looking towards Waterfield with the elevated MBTA commuter rail in the lower right. And also some views from Church Street to show the minimal impact of what that would look like at the businesses along Church Street. And this one is the impact of what it would look like from at the juncture of Church and Waterfield. Down on the left, you could see where the 3-story building fronts on Waterfield Street. And you can see there's a roof deck that's pushed back on the 4th level as well. So tab through our site development plan just to show you the various components of this particular project, and which we hope will illustrate our approach. So this is the rear portion of the building. This houses the majority of our residential units. It's 3 stories, and as I mentioned before, it's over 1 level of above grade parking and a subterranean parking level as well for 4 total stories above grade. Again, our 3-story fronting building that houses our lobby along Waterfield Road. We've also designed the project to keep in mind the neighbors that are adjacent and to maintain the access for them. As you can see in our parking garage, there's a little niche to the left that we've allowed for turning radius to be so that we could continue and maintain the access to which would be to the west there, northwest. Also we provide perimeter access at grade around the building. This is by foot. And we've also are proposing some potential connectivity between the Laraway Road connection for some traffic calming opportunities and shifting the crosswalk to align with our building, and also, for that matter, continuing the access further back towards the parking lot. We also have provided covered biking storage furthest to the left there. And by maintaining this type of access and moving, providing the bump outs, we also hope to reinforce, elevated walkways, proper signage for areas to connect over to the commuter rail, because this will be how we would afford people to get to the commuter rail, the stairs, and the elevator. And also towards the rear, this is a potential multi-use area where we're proposing permeable pavers furthest to the left and shaded in green. Just to run you through the floor plans that we're proposing, this is the lower level of the garage. This was, as I mentioned before, would be for resident parking. There's a few areas for bicycle storage as well, with access to elevators and the requisite egress stairs. Onto the ground floor plan, excuse me, you can start to see where the garage starts to connect to the lobby area and the 3-story front building that fronts on Waterfield Street, and also the connectivity to the commuter rail to the bottom of the slide. The second floor plan, this is where we're proposing a double-loaded residential construction. You'll see that we're proposing also a roof deck with a community room, typical amenities for a project like this. And as we tab up the units stack, and this again is a double-loaded construction. And the different colors, I should say, just represent the different unit types that I had spoken about earlier in the presentation. Again, these stack, and this starts to show that we're proposing a rooftop deck above the 3-story portion of the building that fronts on Waterfield. Roof plan, again, just to reinforce the fact that we're providing a roof deck, trying to keep the mechanicals to a minimum to afford the opportunity for photovoltaics on the roof, also known as solar panels. And then also we thought we'd just want to kind of describe the heights of the particular buildings, give you an idea of the scale. As you can see, that 48 feet is the height limit per zoning. A couple of things that we're showing here is the top of our deck is at 47 feet, which is actually a foot lower than what the limit is for zoning. But we are proposing a parapet at 42 inches. This is twofold. It helps shield mechanical equipment. It helps shield photovoltaics, and it also acts as fall protection rather than putting a railing around the building. So that is our approach to the 50-foot 6 50 feet 6 inches top of parapet. And also to give you an idea of what that front 3-story building looks like, that building is 41 feet tall. It fronts on Waterfield Street. And then there are two components that break this, the 50-foot 6, which is a connector that is between the front building and the rear building where the majority of the units are housed. And then also what we're calling the tower in the back, for the reasons that I mentioned before, to help break down the scale across this project, act as a visual terminus for people pulling into the parking lot, and also act as an end cap for the residential portion of the building to the west. So with that, I'll turn it over to Michael Laham from Horsley Witten, who will discuss the civil engineering and landscape components of the project.
Right. Thank you, Joe. Yeah, again, my name is Mike Laham. I'm a senior civil engineer with the Horsley Witten Group. You can go to the next slide here, Joe. So this here is kind of a colorized site plan, which is based upon the engineering plans that were submitted for the project. And just kind of to orient you again with the site plan, north is facing to the right of the page, which is the location of the town common across Waterfield Road. The existing commercial and residential uses located toward the top of the page, front on Church Street on the west side of the site. Winchester Center Station, which is currently undergoing renovations, as many folks know, is located toward the bottom of the page on the east side of the plan. And then on the left side there on the west is kind of undeveloped forested land on the south of the site there. The Aberjona River is located across the MBA tracks, so kind of toward the bottom of the plan, on the other side of the greenway, and the 200-foot riverfront area from the Aberjona River extends into one corner of the project site as depicted on the plans. So a notice of intent filing will be submitted to the Conservation Commission in the coming weeks, and the hearings are expected to run concurrent with the planning board. So now I'll give a brief overview of the civil engineering and landscape related components of the project. The main driveway to the east side of the building is proposed to service the site from Waterfield Road, including the garage entrance, trash pickup, and a row of surface parking adjacent to the commuter rail station. The driveway also provides access to the existing MBTA signal tower building located next to the site, along with access to the existing MWRA sewer main and easement, which crosses the site beneath the proposed driveway. Joe had mentioned the curb bump outs there on Waterfield Road and the shortened crosswalk adjacent to the site driveway. The rear surface parking area you can see has a different color there. Will be constructed of pervious pavers, and the benefit there is it provides visual interest with the change in surface material, and it also allows the space to be closed off occasionally for pedestrian oriented events if that's desired. So there's 3 crosswalks essentially that cross the main drive, and that in order to maintain connectivity with the MBTA station and also the existing sidewalk on Waterfield Road. The existing alley access for the abutting commercial uses will be preserved up in that location there. Yeah. It will be realigned to follow the west wall of the proposed building near Waterfield Road. And again, Joe mentioned that little niche in the building in the alley you can see there, to provide adequate space for vehicles such as passenger cars, delivery trucks, and garbage trucks to turn around. We performed a series of vehicle turning analyses as well for this project for both the main driveway and the alley to ensure that adequate circulation space is provided for all expected vehicles based on the existing and proposed uses here. The vehicles analyzed include a large passenger car, delivery vehicle, moving vehicle, garbage truck, and the fire department's aerial ladder truck. So next, I'll kind of move on to the stormwater and utility components of the project. The stormwater you can see is the kind of the brighter blue, represents the stormwater infrastructure. So we came up with a comprehensive stormwater management system for the project that was designed in accordance with the Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook and Winchester's rules and regulations regarding the use of public sewers and storm drains. A variety of stormwater practices were utilized, including catch basins, treatment structures, subsurface infiltration systems, and the pervious pavers previously mentioned. The drainage calculations that were submitted indicate that the peak runoff rates and volumes in the proposed condition will be decreased at each of the study points when compared with the existing condition. And detailed information about the stormwater system can be found in the report, and the grading and drainage design is sheet C4 of the plan set. For the utilities, new utilities will be extended into the project site, and a portion of the existing utilities that are underneath the parking lot will be removed if no longer needed. A new water main is proposed to be installed in Waterfield Road from Thompson Street to Church Street. That's that darker blue line there. And then the building's domestic water service and fire service will be extended from this new water main. A new sanitary sewer connection will be made to the existing MWRA sewer main that traverses the property. It's that green line that's running underneath the drive aisle there. And our connection is just shown off to the left. So we'll be coordinating that connection with MWRA. Given the age and the brick construction of that sewer main, the applicant is prepared to line this section using a cured in place pipelining process in coordination with, of course, MWRA and the town. The electric and communication services for the building will be extended underground to the new building. The proposed landscape areas you can see here in green, and then the kind of lighter green circles are the shade trees and smaller kind of native ornamental trees where appropriate. It's somewhat limited landscaping on this project, but we've done the best with what we have here. So you could see the proposed landscape areas around the parking lot will be planted with small shade trees such as American hawthorn beam, along with a variety of native ground covers such as Grollo sumac, inkberry, and Pennsylvania sedge. And then the smaller landscape beds around the building will be planted with smaller shrub, calling out serviceberry now, and those similar native ground covers as in the other areas. So to kind of wrap up this part, I'd say the project as designed has been reviewed by the appropriate town departments and staff members, including engineering, planning, fire, police, and DPW. And of course, coordination is currently ongoing regarding their review of the project. So now I'd like to turn it over to Mike Santos from VHB for a summary of the traffic components.
Okay, thank you. And good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Michael Santos. I'm with VHB. I'm a senior transportation engineer, and we were responsible for the preparation of the traffic impact and access study that was submitted as part of the planning board submission. And I'm just going to go through very briefly a few slides, go over what we did for the traffic study and what we found. And I just also want to point out that we did meet with the planning department and engineering department and the town manager back in October to discuss the traffic study and what they would like to see covered. So, we took their input and focused on pedestrian improvements, which you've already seen, and incorporated everything into the study. So just to reiterate, this project is transit oriented. It's adjacent to the commuter rail station, which is currently under construction, right in the center of Winchester. So it's surrounded by good pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure. There's the track community greenway is very close to the site to the east. Again, there's 119 parking spaces on the site. 71 of those will be available to the public. The project's also providing both on-site bicycle storage for residents and exterior storage for visitors. And so the traffic study considered three different scenarios: in existing conditions, no build conditions, and a build conditions. So just to go over what those are. We did traffic counts last year. I think it was last September or October, around that time frame, at 4 intersections on Waterfield Road. We can go to the next slide so you have a point of reference. So we did traffic counts at these locations on Waterfield Road in the weekday morning peak hour from peak period from 7 to 9, and then again in the afternoon from 3 to 6. And what that does is we establishes the baseline for traffic volumes at these locations. Also, with the understanding that when we did the counts, there was a lot of construction activity. Laraway Road was closed. There was construction activity on the site. I mean, you could see a little bit of that in this aerial photo. So we took the existing counts. We made some upward adjustments based on our conversations we had last October with the town. We can go to the next slide. And again, this just shows the location of the site in relation to the Winchester Center and the various sidewalks. The sidewalks are showing up as the orange color, crosswalks as the teal color, and again, the track community greenway travels north-south in the green color. So it's in a great location for walkability and for bicyclists and for using the commuter rail. Go to the next slide. We also looked at, I know that the town has been looking at parking throughout Winchester. So we did our own field observations. We looked at the studies that were out there and just documented the on-street parking facilities and also the other publicly available facilities. The site's shown in the bottom left here underneath where it says Waterfield Road. You can see that the existing parking on the site, and then there's a lot of on-street parking throughout the area. Go to the next slide. Again, the public transportation, it's adjacent to the Winchester Center Station. Bus route 134 also runs north-south through the town with several bus stops. I believe that is actually going to be renumbered or rerouted as part of the MBTA's bus redesign program. But for now, this is shows the bus route and the commuter rail station in relation to the site. We can go to the next slide. So as part of the traffic study, we estimated the potential traffic related to the project. Again, it's 60 units. And what we do is estimate the number of trips expected during the peak periods. So the weekday morning peak period and evening peak period for residential developments, that coincides with commuter peak. So what we're doing here is we're using those numbers to analyze the intersections, kind of as a not a worst case scenario, but when we experience peak traffic periods throughout the course of the day. Based on this, this project is expected to be a fairly low traffic generator. We also expect some of the trips to be made again by walking, people commuting by the commuter rail. So it's approximately 19 to 20 trips during the peak hours. So that's not throughout. That's just during 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the evening. And if you disperse that traffic throughout the roadway network, it's very low. It's you're not going to have much of an impact on traffic operations. You can go to the next slide. Oh, that's it. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's see. So we have so Town Engineer Matt Schuman. Do you want to talk a little about, I mean, you called together a bunch of people within the town to start reviewing it internally. So I don't really mean to put you on the spot. I could give a brief summary of that meeting if you'd like. I think you're.
Yeah,
There we go.
we had a meeting with the engineering department, public works, including the water sewer division, the superintendent, and the public safety, including police and fire, Concom, and the sustainability manager. I think that's everyone that we met with, but kind of just it's very similar presentation to what was given today, just to get everyone up to speed with the project and just ask some questions and have some general discussion.
Right, thank you. So we've got so town hall is starting to work on their internal things, and then
Correct.
and then we have to, for what the planning board needs to decide upon is what are the external review consultants that we would like to bring forth on this project. And we have the traditional three, which are the traffic, design review, and then stormwater management. I don't know that there's a sufficient amount of landscaping on this project that we would want to call in a separate landscaping consultant. But I know, Matt, that you have reached out to Weston and Sampson, and in our packet today is a scope of work from them. I think you've indicated that that is acceptable to engineering.
Yeah, so what we asked them to look at, in addition to the stormwater management, was the overall utility plan. As they had mentioned in their presentation, they need to extend the water main up Waterfield Road up towards Church Street. So that's something that we would have them look at, and then also just look at the sewer generation and sewer connections, in addition to the stormwater management standards that we usually would have a peer review on a project of this scale.
Okay. So the other one that I think engineering often takes the lead on is traffic, just because it's an engineering discipline. And I think you don't yet have a scope of work, but your suggestion is that we go with Tool for our peer review?
That's correct.
Okay.
Tool has done a lot of work in the town center and is fairly familiar with the issues in the town center, and probably be well versed for reviewing this type of project.
Okay. And then I think the final one is design, and that is something that the planning board has in the past taken on itself in order to find consultants. And I'm referring back to when we did the 10 Converse. We had our town planner at the time reached out to a number of firms to interview them and bring them on for, we actually interviewed them by the board. So I've spoken with our former town planner, Brian Zakelli, who is available to give us a few hours a week. And because of his familiarity with this project, he actually did an initial review of the packet that was submitted, in order to ensure that it was complete. And you should have his memo in your packet where he finds that. And the other thing is, he has made the suggestion that he could contact the design consultants and set that up for us. And if the board wants to, if there are any comments from the board on that. So those are the three main consultants. So I'd like to open it up to the board if you have any concerns or discussion. I mean, the way this works, and town council can let me know if I get this wrong, is that we're going to have scopes of works with actual numbers on them, and then we have to meet with the proponent and make an agreement that that is the cost that is acceptable. At that point, the board has to vote to accept that price that's on there. And then the proponent can put the money into escrow and then we can proceed. So this is, I believe, going to take us probably, well, we're not going to get to it tonight because we don't have, unless I think that Civico at all, you guys are probably going to want to look at that scope of work from Weston and Sampson and make sure that it's acceptable to you. And then we will get something from Tool hopefully shortly. And then the design will be, I'm hoping we can get that done in a couple weeks. I was hoping earlier, but then I always keep forgetting that we have to come back to the board to vote for approval of these, the scope of work and the money. So that is the schedule as I see it for those. Any comments from the board? Is Tool and Weston Sampson acceptable consultants for those two, for the traffic and for the stormwater management?
I think so. Just in speaking with our town manager about the choice of tools, she reminded the group that we were part of that they have a lot of experience and data in this town to draw from, and should be able to efficiently assess the traffic study. And so it was a good choice because they have so much information already.
Okay, so I would like to just make this a little more formal. So why don't we, could I get a motion to move forward with Tool for the traffic design? Or I'm sorry, the traffic review, not design, traffic review. This is just a review of the submitted traffic plan. So is there a motion for that?
We're making a motion for it, even though we haven't seen the proposal. Or
Well,
scope.
we're going to, no, we're going to move that we reach out to Tool, that we select Tool, unless you want to select a second firm. I mean, if you want to select more than one firm.
I mean, I'm okay with that. I would second Sally's motion.
Yeah, we're going to see the scope of work. So there's nothing, we're not actually voting to accept it. We're just voting to say, let's go ahead with Tool.
Okay.
Go ahead with an inquiry to Tool and see
Yeah.
what they provide.
Right.
Right. So I second that.
Okay, so why don't we get a vote on that? Sally,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
I Ching,
Aye.
and I'll say aye as well. And then the next one would be to move forward with the stormwater management. I'm missing half of that, Matt, I apologize. Stormwater and something management with sewer, with Weston and Sampson and so that would be engineers recommended firm. Shall we move forward with that? And since we do have a scope of work with that and it's acceptable to engineering, I would suggest that we start working with Civico and Causeway to negotiate that scope of work and price, because we already have one in hand. So that would be my suggestion moving forward. And if someone would make a motion to that effect, or you want to have discussion on this?
No, I need you to explain again what you just said.
Let's see if I can remember that. So we already, so engineering has recommended Weston and Sampson.
Okay.
They have come up with a scope of work, which is acceptable to engineering. However, it has not yet been reviewed by Causeway and Civico. And so if we find Weston and Sampson an acceptable firm and we already have, the directive would be to move forward with this firm, with the scope of work, talk to Civico and Causeway, make sure that the scope and the cost is acceptable. And then we could come back and have a vote of the board when that discussion has been finalized.
So I would move that they reach out to Weston and Sampson to continue discussion about the scope and agree on the scope and a number. And then the planning board would vote on that.
Okay, so we're gonna agree on Weston and Sampson. Is there a second for that?
I'll second that.
Okay, let's see, roll call vote. Carrie,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
I Ching,
Aye.
and I say aye as well. Okay, and then I believe the last consultant, the board can remind me or tell me if I've got them off by one, is a design consultant. And so what's happened in the past is that we've reached out to several firms who have experience working on projects in the urban setting that this is in, as well as the size. And we've brought several of those candidates to the board, who then interviewed them, and we made a choice. And if it's okay with the board, I will ask Brian Kelly, because of his past experience with doing that and on this project, to start that work. Our new town planner is coming on next week, but I really I'd like to get this moving, and I think Brian has the background knowledge to move quickly on this. So if that's okay with the board.
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay, so can I get
Anybody
a?
else? Oh,
let's call- So moved. Okay, is there a second on that?
I'll second it.
Okay, so why don't we go through on this? Carrie,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
I Ching,
Aye.
and I say aye as well. Great. So we're all set. Is there another consultant that you think we should have on this project?
Well, the only comment that or one comment that stuck out, I think it was your architect who was presenting. No, it was your civil engineer presenting about the landscaping. And I know from the original design to this design that a lot of open space was reduced. So I see what you see, that you've done a really good job of identifying trees to go in there. But given how important the landscape is to the whole property, I wonder if the planning board would consider asking a peer review of the landscape architecture plan with the specific interest in what can be done to maximize tree coverage over the number of years that we expect the building to be there, because shade will be really essential. I don't know if we've got the best shade. I don't know either way, actually, but that would be one thing I would use as a criteria was.
How much of the project is in the wetland buffer? How much will Concom have to weigh in on this?
Someone from the design
I
team.
know you mentioned that you need to consult with the Conservation Commission, but how much is it? The full parcel within the wetland? Or just part of it?
No, I can speak to that. It's essentially, if you were looking at the plan, the bottom left corner,
Yeah.
back by the existing signal tower in the pervious paver area. So it's a few thousand square feet probably. So it's a small portion of the property.
And none of the landscaping falls into where none of the anticipated landscaping is in their jurisdiction.
Not particularly. No, it's more, it's currently paved as the parking lot, and we're kind of keeping that use within that area, just swapping to the pervious pavers.
And that border that you demarcate in green that's around the building that sort of connects that you said is a sort of an alley access, not the actual alley, but the access to the sort of circumference of the building. Is that meant to be green space, or is that in green just because that's what you chose for the color?
Right. It's meant to be green space, and it will need to be kind of traversable by the fire department is the only thing. So it'll kind of be a green space, like probably a lawn, like a low maintenance lawn, perhaps something that they can access around the building.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the other thing on landscaping that we didn't get into detail on yet is that second floor roof deck over the garage, and that's something I think is going to be a really nice amenity once we get into the details on that.
Yeah, so I agree with Sally. There's probably opportunities here to get some help from a landscaping.
From a landscape architect.
Yeah.
And if could I say one more thing on that?
Yes, yes.
I would think Weston and Sampson might be able to cover that. I mean, it's pretty minor and it's pretty integrated with the site design. So to me, if that was possible, that might make the most sense instead of bringing someone else in.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Maybe.
and the other thing to consider too on the landscaping as you think about the shade trees is we've been advised by MBTA that they are wary of very large trees along the tracks. So we're working kind of in concert with that, where our tree selection is being informed by MBTA because of course we're within their zone of influence
Right.
along that whole access area. So it's all kind of integrated into the site design, and so that could be worth checking with Weston and Sampson.
And have you been in touch with Ken Pruitt, our sustainability director in town, about the project at all?
Ken,
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Ken was at the meeting on Wednesday where this was Matt's meeting that he called the old hands meeting. So Ken is involved.
Great. So I'm equivocal. I could go either way. We could postpone landscaping until we hear what everyone else has to say then.
Yeah, I think it's a small part of the site. I just wanted it to be as impactful as it could be for the specific conditions that are present. And we can hold off on that. That's nothing.
We could also, Reed might weigh in when they show them the site plans anyway. He's sort of,
right.
No, it's outside their jurisdiction. It's a little hard to get him to not weigh in. So
One thing that does come to mind is the perimeter path that goes around the building is 5 feet wide, I think, and it shows as grass on the site plan. So that would be grass that the firefighters would use as access to the building in the case they needed access. And the rest of the time it would just be mowed. Or is it intended that there's doors outside leading out the building to that strip? It doesn't seem feasible for it to be grass, I guess is what I'm saying.
So let me just in the
I know it's too detailed.
I mean, so the question is if the board doesn't feel strongly about a review of the landscape architecture,
I don't
maybe,
think we need one right now.
maybe we can wait until we see the presentation, or maybe there's more information that's going to come out, which will give us an idea of what's going on, especially with that deck or whatever you're calling it above the garage. So with that, if there's no other requests for consultants, why don't we now turn to scheduling? So I think that it's going to take, let's say it takes a couple weeks to get we're going to have to, I think we'll get traffic and stormwater. Stormwater, we already have a scope of work. Traffic, I think will probably be pretty quick. Design, I think, if we play design a little by ear, we can postpone, we can work on the design consultant in parallel. So the question arises, Matt, if I could put you back on the spot, which of the do you think Weston's, let's say, which of the reviews do you think can be done first so that we schedule our next hearing based upon the review that might be coming in first?
I would expect the utility review would come in first, but keep in mind they probably won't start until we have an official agreement, and they'll probably need a couple weeks to review from that.
Okay.
So you're probably looking at sometime towards the end of September, maybe. I mean, I don't know how quickly the turnaround will be on the approval and
Okay, right.
that, but I would say a couple weeks after the approval of the scope happens.
Okay, so let's say that we get the scope worked out within, but if we take next week to work out the scope, then we could have an approval by the planning board on the 22nd.
Yes.
And so that would allow them to let's hopefully get started on the 22nd, or if the planning board feels like they want to have a special quick meeting to do the approval, we don't have to have a full meeting to do this. We could just set up a special meeting. But let's say the earliest, let's aim at the 22nd for the beginning of the scope of where the Weston Sampson can get started on stormwater management. And if we give them, okay, where's the calendar? Give me a calendar, please. Okay, so the 22nd, well, 2 weeks from then is September the 5th, which is really close to Labor Day. So I don't think we're going to be doing anything on that week. Nobody else will. So the earliest after that would be the 12th.
And Dia, what is it that would occur on the 12th then?
I think that hopefully we could have, we'll play it by ear, we could have the hearing on the stormwater management systems.
So a hearing using peer review replies, data.
Yes, we would continue the hearing. Although actually, if we want to meet to, yeah, let's schedule, let's say the 12th would be stormwater and sewage.
Will we have the Weston and Sampson peer review by September 12th? We don't know that,
Well,
right?
we don't know that, but I'm just gonna, if we have to move it by a week, then we'll move it.
Yeah,
But let's
okay.
just try to set up a set of.
Yeah, I got it.
So I can check in with Weston and Sampson tomorrow and just say we anticipate around the 22nd, being able to give an approval or, or notice to proceed. Will they be able to have something by the 12th? Of course, it's a lot of times there's a little back and forth between the developer and the peer reviewer. So it may be that they have the initial comments. I don't think they would have, some rounds back and forth by then, but certainly they can speak to the project at that.
Yeah,
that point.
I don't want to, so this isn't set in stone. I just want to sort of lay out what we can expect. So yeah, we should be flexible. So I'm thinking that if we aim for the 12th on this, then maybe we can also we could do traffic by the 26th. We could maybe hopefully do, I think traffic and design could be done. Design is, I think, going to be a big one, but I'm hoping we could combine traffic with traffic. I don't think is going to be well, who knows? Traffic's important.
Let's keep the traffic as a tentative date of September 26th.
Yeah.
And
okay.
like you mentioned, as you said a moment ago, we would proceed with the selection of the design consultant parallel with Tool and Weston and Sampson working out their scope.
Yeah, and I'm hoping we can bring the design consultant on so that we could hopefully get something by the 26th as well. But if not, we will.
Right.
So yeah, so it looks okay. And then we can. So I need to ask you guys at Civic on Causeway. Is this is this schedule something you can live with? Is this too advanced? Are you good with this? Okay, I'm seeing nodding heads. No one's running away in shock yet. Okay.
Well, and I want to say, do you have something you said earlier in the meeting, which is that while time is of the essence with this project, we don't want to sacrifice an excellent outcome when it comes
I think,
specific.
yes, that is the last thing we want to do in a project. It's this important.
Right.
Let's remember that if this, this would be the largest project in the town center for some time. So, or will have started, other than the MBTA, which I guess is pretty big. So why don't we do this? Why don't we continue our hearing until the 22nd? And at that point, hopefully we will have scopes of work from Tool and Weston Sampson that are acceptable, and we could accept, the board can vote on those and accept those, and those can move forward. And by then,
And the
hopefully we-
presumption was that, I'm sorry to interrupt you, the presumption was if we vote on the 22nd, that the scope is great, that's what we want to know about. Can they do it from between the 22nd and the 12th? And the idea was that that we would hear their
yeah, let's,
recommendations. on that
obviously,
day.
the consultants will let us know whether
Yeah, we
that's a
can be
reasonable
flexible.
timeframe.
Okay, good.
But and by the 22nd, hopefully we'll also have some candidates to talk to for our design consultants.
Yes.
So,
Great.
okay, so I think that's it. So we are going to, and we're actually only 10 minutes over our 15 minutes, which is amazing.
So Diab, do I move to continue the Waterfield lot public hearing for the Waterfield development to the date of August 22nd at 7:30 p.m.?
Yes, I would.
I
that
so
would be-
move.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, roll call vote, please. Nick,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
Yi Ching,
Aye.
and I say aye as well. So thank you all very much. This is really exciting to see this project starting to move forward. Oh, I should let everyone know that all the public can always reach the planning board at planningboard@winchester.us. And this is a project that we really want to hear your input on. We know it's an important part of town. Town center is a very important place for a lot of people. So please, planningboard@winchester.us.
And Diab, can you put up on your screen the link to all the documents that we have to date that is on the planning board page of our town?
You're asking me for technical.
Well, I'll read it.
No. I got it. I just, just hold on.
I can be low tech too.
You could be low tech, but why be low tech? And we can look at, you don't really care about YAML, do you? But let's go to Winchester Planning Board. So if you want to go to Winchester Planning Board and where is it? Right off on the left, come back here. Right off on the left panel, Waterfield Civico Project.
It's
And-
alphabetical.
And we're putting all of the documents that we get that will go up there. We'll get the Weston Sampson proposal up there. And this is Plan Central for the planning board.
And I just would say to the whole design team that if you happen to see that we have something posted there that's not the most recent, or if there's a critical document missing, you should absolutely let us know.
Okay, excellent.
Great.
Oh,
So
thank you
coming-
all very much.
Thank you.
And we will see you guys in a couple of weeks, or you see you people. I'm sorry, let's keep it gender neutral. We'll see you people in a couple of weeks. Okay. And with that, I think we're going to lose 3/4 of our crowd. But thank you all for joining us. Our next on our agenda this evening is we have a ZBA petition for the Lynch school site, and we are an advisory body. So let me bring up the screen share again. Let me bring up what the actual posting is for. Okay. And we do have someone with us this evening to discuss it. It's Meg White. First of all, let me bring up. Okay, let's go to the beginning. Okay, this is as big as it gets, I guess. So we're here. This is ZBA petition number 4003. The town of Winchester is actually applying for a site plan review under section 951 and section 3 and section 9517 of the Winchester zoning bylaw to be permitted to construct a new elementary school that will require more than 20 parking spaces, to change the grade more than 500 square feet by more than 6%, And they are requesting a special permit under section 631 for the removal of earth materials, section 525 from relief from the minimum number of loading bays. And they seek a variance from the following sections. Section 4.1, relief from maximum building height, section 5.13, the relief from the number of parking spaces required, section 5.19, subsection 7, relief from the 2% minimum landscape interior area of parking lots, and section 5.22 for relief from the minimum number of loading bays. Property is in the Conservancy Institutional Zoning District and contains 955,490 square feet. Okay, so this is, as everyone knows, a very important project for the town. And so we are coming in as an advisory board. So Meg, if you want to start us off, maybe tell everyone who you are and what your role is in this.
Sure. Hello, everybody. Good evening. So I want to apologize up front. I don't have a presentation for tonight. I was aware of the meeting earlier this week, but I was not actually invited to the meeting until this afternoon. So I don't, like I said earlier, I don't have a presentation. I am the town's project manager. I am not the project manager on this project. The town has hired Hill International to be the OPM for this. And as you are probably aware, the school building committee, the EFPBC, is in charge of this project. It falls under their jurisdiction. It is partially funded, both through a debt exclusion and through the MSBA, the Massachusetts School Building Authority. So because of that, it has fallen under their review at every step of the design. Currently, we are through 60% design and are into 90% design, which is due to the MSBA at the end of August. The schedule for the project is 90% submission the end of August, and then final design and bidding in October. We have gone through and are still in the process of extensive review by the Conservation Commission, and that's moving along quite well. I believe, I don't have a calendar in front of me, but we should be able to close with the commission on the 15th, I think, is the Tuesday. Next Tuesday, the 15th. Jay, I see that Jay is on a call, and I would like him to explain a little bit about the role that the planning board has in this particular project, given the fact that it is a school project and falls under the Dover Amendment. And if Jay could do that, I think that might help you understand your role a little bit better. And then there is a representative here. I think it's David Warner from Warner Larson. Again, David was kind enough to hop on the call at the last minute. We don't have a presentation. We could answer some questions that you have, certainly. And if we don't feel comfortable answering them right away, we would certainly get back to you, as soon as possible. Matt Schuman is on the call. He could talk a little bit about the review that the engineering department has done in terms of their review that they've done for stormwater, etc., for the Conservation Commission. So if there's any questions related to that, Matt could probably answer some of those questions. So sorry to be so non-committal, but maybe Jay could start.
Well, first of all, Meg, I need to apologize to you. I don't think you have to apologize. I do apologize that we drug you in here on such short notice.
That's okay.
So I do appreciate you making time this evening, considering that you have to go to capital planning tomorrow evening. So that's 2 evenings of your week shot.
Yeah. Well, EFPBC last night. So who's counting? Who's counting?
So yeah, Jay, I think, the words Dover Amendment are probably something very few people on this board have ever heard before. So Jay, if you could provide us a little background on that.
Yeah, so the Dover Amendment is Chapter 48, Section 3 of the Zoning Act, and it provides in varying but similar forms, large-scale exemptions and relief from zoning for certain classes of use, including agricultural, education, religious, solar, daycare, and a couple of other minor ones. So there's obviously an educational use. The term educational is very broad, but obviously this is, right in the meat of educational use. And what the Dover Amendment says broadly is that you can't have any bylaw that that unreasonably regulates educational uses, provided that you're allowed reasonable regulations with respect to a few isolated areas, including bulk, parking, yard sizes, etc. And even then, what the cases say is you can't really deny or overly condition educational projects without some overwhelming, and it would have to be overwhelming, need to protect public health, safety, and welfare. And the cases are very limited where that's been permitted or tolerated. So, which isn't to say that towns, and I'm most normally in that position, don't utilize the practice of zoning in the special permit world, especially, or site plan review, to help shape projects, but not to frustrate or deny them. It gets a little more complicated. I don't think we have to go into it too much deeper. I'm going to be discussing it a little bit next week with the zoning board, which is going to be hearing these. One thing that is noteworthy is that all of the variances that you referenced are not applicable, and the town's going to be withdrawing those applications because you're not required to apply for dimensional variances from zoning bylaws. So all of that is moot because the dimensional requirements just simply don't apply, provided that there could be, through a site plan process, some reasonable regulation of dimensional controls. In other respects, I think the zoning board would be well served by having your guidance, as always, as to what you like and don't like and about the project, but bearing in mind that the scope of your review is pretty limited to real basic chunks. And that would be issues like parking, dimensional size of the building, primarily, much less the more esoteric and aesthetic interest that you might otherwise normally regulate. Those issues are more or less off the table for Dover protected uses, which isn't to say that you couldn't offer some comments if you felt strongly about it, but in terms of the zoning board's ability to regulate those more esoteric items, that they are nil to non-existent. So that's the Dover Amendment in a nutshell. I have scars up and down my back from representing my municipal boards, trying to combat not so much schools, but other Dover protected uses that may not be so well received in some quarters.
So Jay, usually when we are reviewing a ZBA petition, it's that we would make a recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals that they would do this or do that. And that would continue to be the case in this situation.
Right, that's right.
Not the variances, but for the specific zoning bylaw clauses.
Yeah, and I think the specific zoning bylaws clauses are only going to apply in so much as they touch upon the few areas that you can regulate.
Right.
Again, it's really parking bulk and setbacks in a project like this. So
Okay.
if there are zoning clauses that again talk about kind of design and landscaping and things like that, those just aren't going to be applicable at the zoning. I'm not suggesting that you don't include any commentary because it may be helpful to the design team, but ultimately that stuff is not regulable for an educational use. It's really kind of the meat and potatoes stuff that
Right.
that the regulatory boards are going to be looking at. You know, I'm working right now on behalf of the town of Needham on a daycare, which is a protected use.
Yeah.
Where they moved it back, you know, from the road to, and that's regulable because that's a setback, and there was a valid public health and safety thing here. So to the extent you have some suggestions, that's fine. Along those lines, ultimately, the applicant, the town, would have to decide if that frustrates normally in terms of either cost or general design
Right.
or feasibility, the project. If it does, the zoning board will be almost certainly powerless to impose anything that veers the project towards that kind of result.
Yeah. Well, I think that for me, just speaking for myself, I'm happy to limit our comments to the topics that you mentioned. And to bring up anything else that, you know, it's kind of like a checkpoint in the process. Is there anything else we want to bring up with regards to this project and the zoning bylaws? And if it's within the scope of things that we can talk about for Dover Act applicants, we will. And otherwise, we'll just say one suggestion, this or that, and then we're done, right? Is that pretty much it?
Well, I mean, again, I don't want to, you know, your board has a lot of good common sense. If there's something you see that it's always good to have a second set of eyes.
Right. I think that's what I'm just
I
getting
mean,
at.
ultimately it's somewhat limited, but any constructive advice is good advice here. You know, I think your board is largely respected for its good sense on making projects fit in with neighborhoods, et cetera. So I don't think any good comments you have are going to go unappreciated. Obviously, if you say you want to shrink the building by 50%, that's not going to work out too well on our end. But
right.
Well, I'm glad you think that the town holds us in such high regard.
I'm just buttering you up, Diablo.
I know. Yep. So moving forward, are there any issues that the board is concerned about on this project? I mean, I think that's where we should start. Or does someone want to make a motion right away?
I mean, I guess, is there anything that can be done about the fact that it looks like a very harsh design?
That's
very.
Let's see if I can bring up.
I mean, I don't know where to begin or what to say. But I don't know how we got there.
Well, we got there because we had an architect who was hired to do this. So let me see if I can come to one of
the state will only reimburse for so much design too. There are, you know, somewhat model designs that you can stay within, but after kind of the Newton example, the state is not reimbursing for the design that we might in our heart of hearts want to do from an architectural design standpoint.
Yeah, actually,
And you specifically mentioned, Jay, that design is something that we cannot regulate for Dover Act applicants.
Yeah, I mean, the aesthetic elements, certainly not. That said, again, if you have a comment, make it. And,
right.
And maybe the design team can work with it a little bit. I'm not committing them to anything, of course, but you know,
these are 90% drawings, then to me, it would be pretty seismic to make design changes at this point. But I don't know, on the scale of things.
So
when you compare to the newer buildings, the VO and the high school, there are so many more windows and so much more open space sort of looking into the front of the building that it has kind of a more welcoming effect than all of this brick. But I also think that each of those buildings had their issues with climate can change with sort of like the temperature regulation in the building, because it's hot longer than I think they were anticipating. So I don't know if that's a piece of what went into it, but visually, if you compare it to the high school and the VO, which is the newer one, it's a different feel.
Can
So-
we have a presentation by the designers just to tell us about the building?
Well, so this is going before the ZBA next week.
Oh, I'm fine then.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the problem is that this is-
As the planning board liaison to the EFPBC and being on the periphery of hearing it in the next room, because my husband's on the EFPBC, just knowing I'm a little bit humbled by how much work has been done in the design and planning and coordination with the MSB PCA and I'm not saying that word correctly probably, but just that amount of work that has been done to get here. You know, they had a walkthrough at VO and Ambrose last night because TAPE also did those two projects. So there is a learning, you know, kind of history of building schools in Winchester from these architects. And hopefully, you know, the third school will be better than the last two even. So, you know, I do think that this is such a massive project and that we have only seen it in this brief, you know, couple of days since we received this, that it would be, it's hard for me to have anything effective to say to move any of this. So
I think the campus layout is great. I think the school will be a great, enjoyable space as a whole. I mean, whatever the, you know, whatever the aesthetic sensibilities are, I agree. We don't have much time to influence that. And I sort of trust they got there honestly, but I think the campus layout's great. I think the kids will have a nice space. And the
So, sorry, so are there any, other than design, are there any other concerns with respect to the issues that bring this to our attention, which are, let me go back to them.
it's grade change, it's parking spaces, it's
Yeah.
loading bays.
So
No,
I
I
think
can't think of that being something that I would have some kind of, you know, intelligent comments about.
Is reducing the interior parking, the planting in the interior parking because they reduced the number, like, did they just try to condense the spaces or why did they?
is there someone from, who do we have with us this evening?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is David Warner, President of Warner Larson Landscape
Oh.
Architects.
Yeah,
I can
go
certainly
ahead, please.
speak to that. We are the landscape architects working with TAPE Architects on the design of the project. So the push and pull when it comes to parking is providing a sufficient quantity of parking necessary for the operation of the facility. And then the landscaped interior, the effect that has is expanding the footprint, the overall footprint of the parking areas. So, you know, the site has a lot of environmental constraints associated with it as well. Places that we can't technically count as interior landscaping. If you'd like, I can actually pull up a site plan to point to these spaces to help explain. The spaces between the parking areas, is that possible?
Yeah, I'd like to do that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just have one thing I need to do, and that is to
Okay.
look at arts. We have two other
Yeah.
things.
It's 8:40.
Yeah. it's already- So I would.
I could, Mr. Chair, I can just explain it simply verbally then. The spaces, when you all look at the site plan, the spaces between the parking areas and the driveways, we've really made those substantial as green infrastructure for stormwater management, where the water flows off of the driveways and the parking areas into these depressions that are used for water quality and water rate runoff reduction. And that's something that's been reviewed in a lot of detail with the town engineer, And Niche Engineering is the civil engineer on this project who has run through all of the drainage calculations. Those are effectively providing substantial landscape, within the vicinity of the parking areas, but it technically doesn't comply because it's not interior to the parking lot.
Okay.
These also make the parking lots much more maintainable from a snow plowing standpoint by keeping them more free of obstructions.
Just different trade-offs. I wasn't sure.
Thank
So
you.
what do we need? Do we need to vote to?
We can
Maybe we
vote.
should vote.
We should vote. We can vote to endorse. We can vote to we can vote to take no action, or we could vote to recommend unfavorable action. So those are our three votes. We could.
Well, I would vote that we vote to take no action. And it's not because we don't have opinions, but the time is short and we're over on our agenda and we got the package fairly recently. And given the number of people in town who have paid very close attention to the design and development of this building, I trust them. I mean, maybe
We kind of have to.
here or one thing there that we should have said, oh my God. What, Nick?
I agree. I mean, we kind of have to trust them. It's not like we can look at this and make any rational determination.
So
What should be done.
is that a motion? That is a motion, Sally.
That we would take no action and,
And Nick, is that a second?
Yes.
Okay, so we can jump right to a vote then. Voting on the motion to take no action.
can we just pause for a second? I just got the sense that Carrie, you had something to say?
No, I don't. I'm just closing my.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't see everyone. So I apologize. Okay, then let's go with the vote. Carrie.
Aye.
Nick.
Aye.
Yi Ching.
Aye.
Sally.
Aye.
And I say aye as well. So thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming out at very little notice to join us and give us your input. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Meg.
I
Thanks,
do
David.
very much appreciate it.
And I'll see you tomorrow, Meg.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Good night.
So let us move on to our next bit. And I think what happened to I think I'm going to try to get everyone. We have two things in front of us, which should be very quick. So we have a Rocky Ledge covenant and HOA, and Mark, I'm going to make you a co-host so you can speak if you need to. So where we left this off was that when we approved the subdivision, we still have there's a final piece of work which needs to be done before we can actually sign off on them, on the Mylars, and that is for a HOA, homeowners association, and a covenant to be agreed upon by the parties and be approved by town council. That was the vote from this board. And so over the past weeks, town council and attorney Mark Vaughn have worked together, and they have come up with those two documents, the covenant and HOA, which are acceptable to both parties. And so what this board needs to do is to vote to accept those, and then authorize, I believe we can authorize Mary Ellen to sign the Mylars, because that's what we've done for A&Rs. So I believe that's the case here. Jay, is that true? Are you still with us, Jay?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just here to take the administrative steps as far as I understand. If you're ready to sign the Mylars in addition to approve the various documents that we've been working on, then seems like you're fine. Obviously, all of the security stuff and the HOA approval is a condition precedent to signing Mylars. So there you go.
And we can assign the duty to sign them to Mary Ellen, to our town clerk, correct? We've been doing that for A&Rs.
I'm not completely sure if I could, Diab, that
Sure.
is appropriate for the Mylars for the definitive subdivision? I know that typically I've seen them signed by at least three of the board members. I don't know if the town clerk would be authorized to sign on the board's behalf, but perhaps Jay knows better than I that there's a.
So I would say, to be on the safe side, some registry officials are not going to accept that.
Okay.
In some circumstances, in and around the advent of virtual meetings, we recorded an instrument with the registry that allowed a single signatory or designee to execute when boards couldn't get together. If that's not recorded in the registry on behalf of this planning board, I'd feel more comfortable with you all just voting to sign it in and then moseying by perhaps town hall, the engineering office or other office to sign, use a Sharpie and sign them at your soonest convenience.
Right. Okay. I'm happy with that. Mark, do you have I know that you have some, you're under some time pressure. When would you like to get the Mylar signed?
Yeah, if it's possible for that to be done before the end of the week for the board members to go in and sign, that would certainly be appreciated. It would allow us to be able to move on. Yeah, so if that's a possibility, I think as long as I think three of the board members needs to show a majority of the board on there, but if all the board
Mark, I can sign by Friday.
Yeah,
Okay.
We need to do it tomorrow, but if it's ready tomorrow, I can go by.
Okay. I think
And
the
you
Mylars have I don't know exactly where they are at the moment. I think Brian in engineering has them.
I think so.
So
That's
let's just all go down to engineering and sign the Mylars. Okay, so if I could get a motion to accept the covenant and the HOA, and I guess
So I would
think
move
that-
that
is
we.
that- is that it,
covenant
Jay,
and
or
the
do we-
H-
is it-
The HOA that has been developed to the satisfaction of town council and applicants council, right, Mark and
Mm-hmm.
Jay? And that we will therefore plan to sign the Mylars hopefully by Friday, August 11th.
right, and I think you need to say something about the covenant in there, Sally. I don't know if you
Sorry, the
said that.
homeowners agreement and the covenant, those are the two?
Yep.
Okay, yes, I meant to say both. I'm sorry. Thank you. Amended.
Okay, so the motion is to approve the Rocky Ledge Covenant and HOA as agreed upon by town council and the proponent, and that the planning board will then sign the Mylars. Is there a second for that?
I'll second it.
Okay, roll call vote, please. Nick,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
I Ching,
Aye.
and I say aye as well. I believe that's now legal, right? We did everything we needed to, right?
believe so, as far as I'm concerned. So
Okay.
appreciate your time. And Jay, thank you for your time as well. Appreciate your time over the last few weeks. So thanks.
Happy to help.
Okay, thank you all very much. Let's jump right to 27 Church Stormwater Waiver. I see that Chris Mulhern is here from the proponent. Chris, I will allow you, if you wish to speak. Real quickly on this, and Matt, you can tell me if I'm wrong. Engineering has looked at the project and decided that it is less than 500. What is the magic word? It's less than 500 square feet of new impervious. Therefore, it does not require a stormwater plan. And therefore, engineering is happy for us to sign off on the waiver on the for the stormwater plan on the permit. And this was the last waiver that was we had left up for question because we were waiting for engineering to get their numbers.
So would the motion be to vote to approve the request for a stormwater, or approve the request for a waiver of the stormwater report or report?
it's a stormwater management plan, I believe is the correct
Management
thing.
plan.
And we just simply have to waive, we vote to waive the stormwater management plan for the 27 Church Street project.
Right, so moved.
And is there a second on that?
I'll second it.
Excellent. I should note that so once we do the waiver, then they have not yet submitted the permit or the application for the permit, and that comes up next after all the waivers are signed off on.
And it
Okay.
will come in as a special permit, is that right?
No, this is a by right.
As of right, okay, right.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. We've got our motion and our second. Nick,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Ching,
Aye.
Sally,
Aye.
and I say aye as well. Thank you all very much. Okay, now
Thank
let
you.
us, thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Let's see. Oh, I see that our liaison with Chamber of Commerce, Richard Leaf, is here with us this evening. Hi, Richard. Okay, next, we are moving into, and this is a little unformed, and I apologize. So, when we last spoke about this 2 weeks ago, we brought up, I think it was Sally who brought up the concept of having form in place and Innis Design work together on the zoning and design guidelines for the MBTA 3A zoning. We know that we've already working with Emily Innis from Innis Designs on public outreach, and we're working with Form in Place on the North Main Street revisioning, and there's an overlap in between the southern part of North Main Street and the MBTA district. So Sally suggested that we work with those two, and then further conversations between myself and Michael Wang, and then Michael Wang and Emily Innis, and I think John Rufo was involved, concerned about what to do about the entire North Main Street Center Business District project, and whether we should treat it all as one, since if we're working, we need to, our last phase of the North Main Street was design guidelines and rezoning, and it was overlapping with the CBD work and the MBTA 3A zoning. So they suggested that maybe what should happen is that we combine these two projects so that we have both of them working on the continuous section there. And so I believe they discussed that, and Sally, I have not had a chance to read their scope.
Yeah, this is good information. Have they sent something?
I don't know if they have.
So I just have to process this. So conceptually, with regards to design guidelines, well, with regards to approaching the two projects as one, one thing to keep in mind is that the design guidelines that are for areas that are not part of the MBTA overlay district, those design guidelines are not subject to the MBTA guideline rules about design guidelines, which is that they must be very specific and very reasonable. And there was three things: the specific and reasonable, and right, that we can't dictate things, that we can. No, you know what? I'm not sure I understand it right now, but I do know that there's specific requirements that the design guidelines for an MBTA 3A overlay district can say fewer things and be less onerous, or what's the word?
Well, you can't put your guidelines cannot prove to be an obstacle to
right?
to development.
And in fact, we don't want our design guidelines to be an obstacle anywhere up and down North Main Street, but not all of North Main Street is part of a 3A overlay district. In fact, the only part that is is the little section of North Main Street that is from Clark to Skilling's.
Well, technically, it actually is all of GBD two.
Oh, it's all of GBD two?
Yes, it is all of
It goes all the way up to
GBD2.
Swanton.
But the idea is that because of the ability to put some enhanced density at the part south of Clark Street, that the requirements for density further up would be lessened. Again, we just need to meet
Because it's a district as a whole, and
you can balance the density because you need the mean density has to be 15 units per acre across the district. So you can vary the density where it's appropriate.
So, I'm sorry, so is the 3A overlay district going to encompass all of GBD two?
Currently, that is what the technical report that we got from our
Okay.
consultants. That was their compliant version. If we wish to restrict it from that, then we will need to find the units elsewhere. But again, that's again, how do we, if you want to shift things, you got to put it somewhere.
Right,
think
so
this-
let's go back to the actual question, because there's shifting and there's this question of the designers that would help us write the zoning for, well, we have sample zoning that we got from MAPC, from Beverly Zent.
We have sample zoning
But
from
we don't have
Goldson.
the design.
It's not from MAPC, it's from Goldson and Associates, but we do
That's
not
right.
have any design guidelines.
Right, and so
So
the
the-
design guidelines could be written by this consulting team for us. Is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
that was actually your suggestion, Sally.
Well, no, I,
So don't
well,
want to,
okay.
yes.
No, I think it's great if we can get their help. I'm just trying to figure out if we're doing this for, is it GBD two and GBD three and the overlay areas of the
Well,
CBD?
So when we started the North Main Street project, we saw it as a corridor which had different locales within it. right?
Yes.
So that we would have design that might change based upon where you were, but that we wanted some sort of a not necessarily something that merged well if we were looking for different areas.
Right.
What I believe one of the points that Michael Wang made is that you want the designs, the design guidelines to apply, maybe not continuously, but you want them to be similar between what's happening in the CBD and what's happening up the GBD. You don't want to have this really stark change. And it wouldn't make any sense to all of a sudden have two very different design guidelines based on whether you were doing a 3A overlay or you were doing the underlying zoning. So the idea would be to create a harmonious set of guidelines, which would be, again, not continuous because we may want to have different feels as we move up North Main Street,
Right.
but having the same people working on that project and all ports makes sense.
It would be great to have their help to pull that together. There's a
And-
granularity to this whole exercise that we can't forget. The east side of North Main, the west side of North Main, and the other points are little nodes that we all are aware of. But there is the need for some sense of a vocabulary and continuity as you travel from the center business district all the way up to the Woburn line. Not that it's like homogeneous, but that it works together. And that's what
you wanna-
design
yeah.
guidelines do.
I mean, if we want to create unique, but I keep using the word continuous and I don't really mean that, but a senses of place which are harmonious with each other somehow. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe I'm going too far off,
Ying-Ching,
but
thoughts?
Yeah, I like both of the consultants very much, and I do think that, is it Emily Innes? She has I like that she sort of made up the rules to the game that we're playing for 3A, right? Like she was part of the crew that made it sort of the baseline rules. And so for somebody who knows the rules that well, I think she's capable of, enhancing and helping us get to the place that we want, without seeming like we're doing the bare minimum to do 3A, but doing something that the town actually would want even if 3A wasn't here, to sort of do the full, upzoning of Main Street, as if it were all part of the the plan. And I do think that Form in Place also, has worked with us enough that they have been turning all these ideas of these bases and know the peculiarities of these lots enough that they are able to communicate that with. And I just think that we need all the help we can get right now. And both of them are
Absolutely,
just
absolutely.
wonderful. I
So
think
do
they're
you have, with procurement issues, can we just say, yes, we want you to work together, give us a proposal?
I don't know. This is something that I did talk to Brian Zakelli about. There are, depending upon how we originally settled upon Form in Place, I don't recall that I think our general recollection is that we didn't do an RFP.
No,
There was different rules for the sort of design consultants than might be for other consultants.
Mhm.
So one of the things that we need to get from, if we do agree to have them as a combined team, then we would need to get from them a scope of work and how much they're going to charge. And that's the point, I think, where we start to understand how we move forward with that. And
Okay.
I don't,
So they're working on that right now, right, Dave?
I believe that's the case. I think that, I know they talked about it last week. They were, after our meeting where you made the suggestion, Sally, they started talking about how they could work together. And so I think I had a really good talk with Michael Wang. I think he's really excited about this opportunity. I think that having the expertise of Emily Innes in her zoning expertise is really be crucial for helping us with our rezoning efforts up North Main Street, as well as for the MBTA 3A. So I'm really excited about this. So moving forward, what I'm hoping is, if the board decides to go in this direction, that one of the first things that our new town planner, Taylor Herman, will do would be to start working with them, getting a very solid scope of work and a budget, and getting this particular thing moving.
Well, and there's actually 3 elements to the scope, because there's the design guidelines, there's the public outreach, and then there's the zoning going for the
Yes.
overlay districts and the 2 business districts.
Yeah.
So that's 3 pieces of their scope right there.
Yeah.
So when
Nick,
will we
Carrie, you guys haven't had a chance to say much.
I like Form in Place. I think they've served us well so far, and they've worked with Emily, and she seems on the ball. So, I mean, I don't know if there are other design consultants we might want to bring in, but I wouldn't imagine they would have the scope that Form in Place have in terms of their influence in what we end up with. So it seems reasonable to me.
Okay. Carrie?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any concerns about them. They seem great, so.
Okay, so why don't I will move it, I will speak with them and let them know that we are interested in pursuing this combined approach. And we'll figure out what the constraints are in terms of funding it, etc. We'll
And
make sure that
this is a major game plan to get us through Springtown meeting
it
successfully.
is.
Community outreach and well-written and thoughtful design guidelines and zoning changes.
Yeah,
So hooray.
I agree. Hooray is right.
I know.
So one of the
And we'll
things,
have Taylor to help us with all the day-to-day dialogue.
so one of the things we didn't get a chance to last week, was it only last week? Last time, was, you may recall that Regan McCain and Get Your Nose Productions.
Got Your Nose graphic design.
Got Your Nose, not Get Your Nose, Got Your Nose, has come up with some ideas for the board. And we did not get a chance to present them at our last one. And I Ching and Sally, have you?
Are we going to go there before? Can we stick to 3A for a second? So 3A.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, three of you sent me names of people who might be interested in the working group. And I really don't know how to get this started because between us, we probably have about 30 to 40 names. And the only working group that I've ever been on was the ADU one. And my recollection of how that formed was that Brian took care of a lot of it. But I don't think that a 30, 40 person working
Oh,
group is
God.
gonna work.
They
Would
want
be
to show up.
effective. No, not everyone will show up, but I just don't know how to go about this. And
So the
Sally did a nice
Arlington,
job of sending a couple of blurbs, sample blurbs that we could do, but I'm just wary of maybe in the end, having a group that feels like it's biased or, who I feel like with Taylor on board, perhaps this will be a good neutral ground again, where
Yes.
he would be able to start to reach out to different groups of people and start to make this ADU, or I'm sorry, this working group happen.
Yes,
that's great, what you said.
I agree with you completely. Taylor will have a lot of stuff to start. He's starting next Monday.
Okay, so that would be high priority, I feel like,
That will
because
be
I think
high
a lot of people in the
priority.
community will very much be interested.
And I think this works well. Having him starting to work with Emily Innes, because she is doing public outreach for us. I think that will be a great sort of meshing of things.
Yes,
So
he's going to
yes.
be helpful in not only in executing the things, helping to execute the plans that she's coming up with, but also bringing in whatever perspective he brings to her work too.
Yeah. So, thank you for holding those, I Ching, but I think we can shift the weight of that onto Taylor. He doesn't know that yet, but he will.
I bet.
Well, and the other thing is that if I don't know who the three are. I know I put some names in, but if we want to just go through our list with Taylor and see and say what each person would bring, so
I
that
think-
Taylor knows as he's building the committee, that the working
Yeah,
group.
I think that we'll figure out
Yeah.
how to get Taylor the information he needs to make it
Okay,
work.
good.
So, this is
So-
all part, yep, go ahead.
I
Nick.
just gonna ask, what part of the agenda are we on?
We're still in, believe it or not, we're in the MBT, North Main Street, MBTA, Public Outreach Consultant Contract Scope Discussion. So
Okay, I just wanted to get in that, Carrie and I sat down at Cafe Nero. We went over maps and came up with a few recommendations for buildings, particularly along the entrance to the center from Church Street, where some buildings appeared vulnerable, and then departing the center from Main Street, there were also a couple of buildings. I wasn't sure how to share that. I guess I could just send it to the board and
I would suggest, yeah, why don't you? Well, we can't discuss it outside of the board, so if you send it to the board, we can put it on the agenda for, I think we want to start to schedule North Main Street discussions.
Can
And
we
wanna-
have a special meeting to talk about the North Main Street overlay district, boundaries? And
Well,
just-
our next thing on our item is to this evening is to schedule North Main Street discussions, so we can certainly do that.
Right.
Before we get there, I just want to just try to get to Reagan's work, but so Nick, I think that one of the things that I think it's important for all of us to understand are, what are the concerns people have? What is it that I think that we need to understand what people think might happen.
Sorry, Loki. I'm sorry.
So for instance, when we look at a particular building and we say, I think that should be, that we don't want it to be, or we do want it to be multi-use, or I'm sorry, multifamily by right. I think that understanding the thought process that goes in and what are the concerns that you have as to, as we go in and we look at each of these lots, we want to be able to identify why this particular lot has characteristics we want to save. What is it that we are concerned would happen if the zoning comes in? How will it change that lot? So that there's always going to be a balance of what might happen. So that's, I mean, that's what we're going to have when we do the overall discussion of each of these things. When we look at each of these lots, and I'm sure property owners are going to be asking us, why did you choose this lot? Why didn't you choose that lot? I can let
Right.
you know that there is a property owner who is very adamant that their property be in the
Right.
in the overlay
I guess
district.
I just thought this process would be a good way to get the
Yeah.
kind of the rest of the board involved, you know, in the process. And I think that that'll be important as we go forward to putting together a cohesive defense of the entire zoning effort.
Nick, could I suggest that we make an agenda item and that the maps and the addresses that you and Carrie
Yeah,
wanted to suggest as modifications could be in our packet for that planning board meeting?
right. And I don't want to, I mean, we can fit it in where we can. I don't want to make a huge issue out of it, but I think
No, it has to happen
I think
quickly.
it's a really important issue, Nick. And I
Way
think
important.
I think that, you know, what I really want us to do is I want us to have to start scheduling some meetings and come up with, and this is where we're going to work with Emily Innocent and his designs is
Right.
what is, how do we stage, that's a bad word. How do we program these? How do we sequence our discussions so that people get the information they need? You know, so the first thing we don't want to start off with, I think, is here's a map. I think what we want to start off with, here are the constraints and here are the rules and here's what, and then we follow with the map and saying, here's how the map fits within those. And here's the things. So I think that we have to provide sufficient context. So I really think that we do need to bring your work out. But I'm you know, maybe it is actually premature to talk about scheduling without having Emily in on this because she is
right. That's probably
the outreach person.
fair.
We're waiting for her scope, her and
Yes,
Michael,
so
and
let
that
me,
would be
so
really
let me,
helpful.
yeah,
I mean, my concern is that the whole thing not feel like it's etched in stone before we've all had a chance to have our input. And I think it's important to have the
It's-
input of, you know, more of the board, and that was the
You know,
motivation.
putting something out there like throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what will stick is definitely not etching things in stone.
Right.
I'm just sorry, I hope you have good paint. I know, Nick, you know, I want to assure you that I don't see anything as etched in stone. I think that I think we have sufficient flexibility that we can accommodate concerns. I think that we look at what the technical report gives us as a starting point. We have, you know, we will be able to, and we haven't had any public input of any note on this process yet. So we cannot make, I mean, it's
One
the
thing-
public's, it's our residents' town, so they definitely have a major voice in what happens.
One thing that happened is because we lost our planner
Mhm.
for 8 months, other towns around us have already formed working groups and begun implementing a whole series of educational community meetings and conversations and feedback sessions.
Oh.
We're just behind the eight ball.
I would have agreed with you, except I was contacted by the town of Sally, do you remember who contacted me?
Rockport,
No,
Gloucester, Marblehead.
Okay.
Marblehead. Maybe it was Marblehead.
It was
I
in
was
North.
contacted by someone from one of these communities, which is an adjacent community. And we had a very long discussion about where they're at and where we're at. And they are just now getting their consultants to help them draw maps and come up with zoning.
So
So-
we're not in the back of the race.
We're not in the back of the race. And their problem is they're an adjacent community, so they don't have a train station to point to. They don't have anything. And they also don't have a lot of, they're mostly single family housing. They have very few areas where they could designate for high density housing. They don't have any established high density areas. So, you know, they have some, I believe they had some, I want to call them decommissioned schools. It's not the right term, but that's what they've got to work with. They have a small industrial area. So there are some places which are definitely further back than we are, Sally.
Well, and so I want to say the ones that I'm aware of, just our immediate neighbors that have, you know, gotten it together is Lexington and Arlington. And there's lots of FAQs on their websites. You can look at the mix of their working groups on their websites, and you can look at their schedules of community outreach meetings on their websites.
And we will
We'll
get
do that.
there.
Yes, we will.
Great,
So
that sounds great. Let's move the agenda along.
yeah, let's move the agenda along. What I do, I'm going to show you, this is, this is one, okay, let me share my screen. So we're not gonna do our planning, so we have less to do this evening than we thought, so we can probably get
What
out.
planning are we not doing?
We're not
Schedules?
scheduling our 3A meetings. We're gonna
Yeah.
wait until we get our consultant.
Yes.
So what I'm gonna try to do is, am I sharing my screen yet? No.
No.
Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share my screen, and these are these are the latest iteration from our design consultant for the logo. And let me see if I can make this. Why can't I make this bigger?
So can you not have your background screen?
I can move this. Hold on. It's going to get really weird now. Let me move this to. Make this full screen so you can see them. Let's turn this off. Okay, so there are. Let me try to do this a little differently.
Are those the precincts?
No, they're not. Those are.
That's what I was thinking, is that I wonder if you could actually have that, but actually have them be meaningful.
Well,
Right.
that's one
They're
of the
kind of
things.
supposed to be meaningful. They're the main streets through the town.
Oh, the main
Yeah.
street.
Oh, okay.
So
I
one
knew-
of
I
the
knew it was a
things.
familiar
Oh, right.
name.
Okay. All right. I could see that now.
So one of the things that we went through a couple of iterations was, if we put things, putting all the precincts down makes it very crowded. And then everyone's looking at trying to figure out, is there a political thing to this? So,
Right.
so the idea was to use, these are the main roads. This orange thing is the town center, and this green thing is sort of emblematic of the town common. And why is this not working? And so what we have here are a couple of different takes. So the one on the left here, this is sort of that might be the Aberjona. I'm not quite sure right now, but the idea was to incorporate
Yes, it is.
some waterway, some of the you know, because we are in a town with a lot of green and nature. But this is such a small logo. Putting all of this stuff into one logo was a challenge.
Right.
So I think these are the collection of things that we came up with, or I didn't say we came up with, our graphics designer came up with. They incorporate the town colors that come from the seal. They are we don't, you know, the town seal is actually much more complex than you would imagine. It's very difficult to incorporate all of the complexity in the town seal. It's just a really busy seal, as you can see here. But the idea would be, how does it look next to the seal? Keeping you want sort of a forward-looking logo, but still harkening back. Does it work well with the seal, which is sort of the past? How much color do you get in there? Too much color is distractive. It doesn't look professional. Not enough color, it makes it look really boring. So these are the different sort of, I think these are pretty much we've got the three things right here. We've got the orange for the town center with the green for the commons. The question is, will people see that as the commons, or will they say, where the
Yeah,
heck
the
is all this?
orientation is tricky for me. Because the commons are
I don't know if they'll see that as the common. I kind of like the
Sounds
green
like the
circle in
town
the middle.
forest, I think.
It could be the town forest. I'm not sure where it is.
It feels
That's
more
right around
like
there.
it's all like part of the flats or something.
Well, the flats is definitely over here. Maybe we should put up a picture of the town.
Or-
No,
No,
So if you had to choose between, say, the one with the river running through it, or the one with the town with the screen for the town common, which would you prefer?
River.
I like the river. I like also the green circle in the middle as opposed to the green wedge off to the side.
Are
Okay.
we're at the stage where these are our choices and we're not,
we went maybe 3 rounds with her already, but
okay.
yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
in that case,
So what are the differences here? So this is. okay,
Although
these don't
we
have the
could
greens.
think about whether we like it.
I
the
think I
words to
like
the
the
side.
color. I think I like the colored dot because I think it gives us a focal point and it gives it a town center, whereas the white kind of looks like a rotary.
So you think that, do you prefer, so you prefer the yellow orange thing in the
I like
middle?
the river. Wait, where's the river one?
And the
River
green,
is
the
green dot with the river.
I
Yeah,
like the green dot with the river.
Me too.
Right.
Yeah, a colored dot that makes the town center clear and the river running through the center is good. The green patch again is, I don't know, the geography feels wrong.
It feels
Okay.
wrong. It feels like this is Winchester and this is special Winchester.
And it's like, it's not the Fells, it's not Right Lock, it's not Gant, we have so many green spaces.
Okay,
So yeah, no green swatch.
So that's, so
I
the
like the
green
green
is
filter.
confusing. So we've all sort of settled on the river running through the town center. So the other thing that came up, and this is because our graphics designer is a graphic designer, is the relationship, the size of the circle in the middle relative to, oh, she actually didn't make it the same as before. Okay. So I don't, I actually prefer a smaller dot in the middle.
I like the smaller dot too.
I agree with you.
Smaller and solid green.
But you didn't
So-
finish your thought, Deb. She wanted the big O because it was
Oh,
similar
that's
to
right.
the
I forgot.
board.
She was looking at the size of the O in the.
I
in
don't
the-
see that.
Yeah, so
Me
right here,
either.
I think she's divorced, she's gotten away from that. But one of the earlier designs, she was trying to balance the size of the text O with the O in there.
So I would say that we should ask if we could see something that is a smaller circle, solid green, not with a white border. And that we should discuss whether, I mean, it depends on how it's going to get used, on a banner or on letterhead or on a memorandum. But she tried to show us Winchester next to the little map, Winchester below the map.
Favorite proportion for that's the middle on the right, but with the river and a smaller dot. So small dot for me personally, but I like the
Okay.
map on the left, Winchester down below.
Okay, so one of the things she pointed out is that the orientation of the lettering can depend upon how you're presenting the logo. So if it is something which is wide, you might put the lettering next to it. So the placement of the lettering, we could have like the letterhead for the planning board might have it in one place, but if it's on a banner to the left, you might move it. The real question is, the ratio of the size of Winchester, Mass to planning board. Is the Winchester, Mass at the right size?
I think it is because we've got two ways of saying Winchester on either side. We have a map of the town and the town seal.
Okay,
You're
so
actually saying it 3 times.
I'm going to argue with myself. I think Winchester should be on top because we serve the town doesn't serve us.
okay, so
correct.
you like this one right here.
Where's
Um,
your cursor?
Oh, and
Yes.
I'm sorry. So it's this one where it's on top. And if we go and
Visually, Carrie, I would say the opposite because it just on the middle right one,
Yeah.
the planning board on top, and Winchester looks right to me. But I like your reasoning of that we do serve town rather than that planning board is the focus. But
Right.
just as
Yeah, visually,
Whoever-
it's like if I had to just gravitate to one middle right for me, but
middle
Maybe
right, but with a
maybe
green.
just make
so this one here,
Correct.
and you just want to change this, but we want to take the
add the river and make a
add the
small
river.
green dot.
Forget.
Oh, and
this is-
take out the green sward.
And take out the green sward. Okay.
I
And
like the
obviously
pink
this
for
is,
Barbie summer. That's nice.
this is the default color. I could do another color. What color should I choose?
keep
No,
the
no, no.
pink.
Let's-
Fine, it's fine.
Chartreuse. Okay. So, so this is the direction that we want the smaller dot in green, river, no green sward. And we're gonna go with this sort of relationship between planning board and Winchester.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, then
Sounds great.
we'll do one
Banners
more
on the
round of that.
way.
We'll
And
do one
speaking
more
of
round of that.
banners,
Go ahead.
We all get mugs so we can sip our mugs while we're.
yeah, that's a great idea. Get
We
really nice-
should have a planning board store and raise money.
Flag.
The
Yeah,
swag.
swag.
More
Okay.
swag.
Oh, man.
So,
Okay, so
speaking of flags and banners, the town organization day at the farmers market is scheduled, and I think it's in October, September. It's on the town calendar, I think, but it's a great opportunity for us to reach out to people, since we're planning lots of outreach and coming up with great logos.
yes, okay, let's keep that in mind. But what I would really like from the board is a motion to adjourn.
Quickly, our next meeting is the 22nd, right?
That is
Mhm.
correct.
I will be flying. I should have Wi-Fi, but I don't have anything else to do. It's a long flight, so I will be on a plane. So if I seem weird, quiet, or disengaged, that's why.
Where are you
Okay.
going?
We're going to Seattle for my niece's wedding. We
Oh.
leave Thursday and we come back out a week from Tuesday.
That's wonderful. How exciting for you.
Great.
Have fun, have fun.
Aunt Carrie.
Yeah, and if there's, hey, I apologize for the disruptions, but I also moved to adjourn.
Oh, and is there a second?
A second it.
Okay, all in favor, Sally,
Aye.
Yi Ching,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
I say aye as well. So we are adjourned for 2 weeks. Thank you, everyone. Thanks to our recording secretary, Nancy Polcari, our rep from, where are you from these days, Richard? The Chamber of Commerce. Thanks to everyone who came on earlier. And thanks to everyone out in TV land. And we will see you all in 2 weeks. Have a great rest of your week. Bye.
Record.